subscribe, like, comment and share to support the channel. Thank you for the support.
Mother was finally in human form as a little girl. She then makes her way towards Marnak, who remains stunned in place by this sudden occurrence. But he soon places his hand onto her face, which makes Mother smile. Marnak smiles as well and tells Mother that he knew that it was her, but he was confused about why she was asking him about the reason why she was in a child's body, as he figured that she would be the one to know. As Mother twirled around in her human body, Marnak then asks her about something. He noted that there was another god's divinity that was flowing, that the dead incarnation that he had just killed, which made him wonder if there was a way that they could take it, as he knew that it was a shame to just let it go to waste. Mother then decides to try something and started to extract the divinity from the dead body. She closes her eyes to focus on pulling more of her power, but she ended up struggling as nothing happened at all even after trying with all her might. Marnak could see this, so he tells her that there was no need to try so hard if it doesn't work and that she should just come back to him. Mother immediately went to hug Marnak while shouting murder. He comforts her by saying that because of all the divinity that was mixed up, it made it impossible for now. He noted that it was a shame, but there was nothing that they could do about it right now. Mother was teary-eyed as she looked up to Marnak with a sad expression on her face while shouting murder at him. He then pulls out the holy relic that they had lifted the seal off, so with the 10,000 divinity, Marnak wishes for Mother to bestow upon him a new authority. Mother's eyes began to glow bright green once again as a light tore through the skies. The light then went on to hit Marnak where he stood, which causes an explosion to occur. He then asks Mother about what was the authority that she had just given him this time. Mother showed a joyful expression as she held both her fists up high and shouted murder. Marnak was confused by what she meant, that he could use the authority as much as he wanted this time. He noted that the authority that he had given him today was too powerful to be used all the time, but all Mother replied with was murder. Marnak chuckles to himself from hearing her reply, but knew that this curse of corruption that he had just received was an authority very close to evil. With this curse, all living things within a range that's as big as a small city would very slowly rot. Marnak was fine with it if they were all villains or already dead people, but he was against killing innocent people to gain divinity, as it was something that he doesn't do. Looking at the broken holy relic, Marnak questions Mother about why the holy relic with her sealed divinity was inside an incarnation. Seeing her playing around made him think that this probably wasn't a coincidence. He continues to speculate that Mother's divinity was probably the driving force for creating that incarnation, but he soon felt that his head was hurting from having to think about it. Something happens as Marnak knew that there was a bigger problem. Just when he thought about that, Mother turns around with a concerned look on her face. Marnak seems to have fallen down as he knew that he had received too many divinity-imbued attacks. He soon collapses onto the ground as Mother runs towards him in shock. He could only stare at Mother's face, which was filled with tears as she cried upon seeing Marnak's state. His vision of her soon started to blur as he knew that his body was at its limit. Marnak soon awakens with his eyes wide open. Carmen was beside him and noted that he was finally awake, but Marnak felt that something was wrong as a dreadful feeling overcame him. He immediately sits up straight and shouts at Carmen about where his things were. Carmen tells him to calm down so that he could explain things to him, but Marnak was insistent on knowing where his things were right now. Right now. He shouted at Carmen, but Mother soon shouts murder to call out to him. Hearing her voice was enough to calm Marnak down as Carmen brought something out with a relief look on his face. He then hands over the hand that represented Mother to Marnak, who held it with both of his hands. Marnak looks at Mother and told Carmen that he thought he had lost it. Seeing his reaction about the hand made Carmen understand that there might be some deep meaning behind it. He explains to Marnak that the others said that it was not something you would carry around, and that they tried to throw it away, but Carmen decided to take it from them. Marnak finally shows a joyful look on his face as he thanks Carmen for helping him. Seeing his happy expression made Carmen happy as well, as he tells Marnak that it was nothing. He reminded him that if it weren't for his great sacrifice from before, then he would have died before making it out of Kelton. Marnak then asks him about where they were right now. He tells him that they were where he was currently staying at. They were in Kelton. Marnak soon wonders about how long he had been unconscious for. Carmen reveals to him that it had been 10 days. Marnak then asks if there were any other survivors. Hearing that question made Carmen pause for a moment before he reveals to Marnak that the only person breathing in the heart of Kelton was him. The scene then changes to somebody running away with a dagger stuck inside his leg. The man continues to scream out in pain as he tried his best to run away from something, but he soon collapses onto the snowy ground. A white-booted foot appears in the snow as well. Men draped in capes all held the same expression of fear upon seeing who the white foot belongs to. It was the blue-haired priest that was looking for Marnak. She carried alongside with her a long blade. She walks towards the man who tried to run away, who started to beg and scream upon seeing her. He continues to beg her to not kill him, but her face was filled with a dreadful look. She could see that the dagger had pierced through his leg, which made her reveal to him that he wouldn't be able to walk anymore. But the man tells her that he could and that he wouldn't ever try to run away again. He started to beg her once again to not kill him as he placed his hand together in a prayer with tears and snot dripping down his face. But all he got for a reply was a sharp swing of her blade, which slices his head right off his body. The blue-haired priest then closes her eyes to recite her own prayer. "O sacred flame, please burn this man's sins." Once she was done with prayer, the man whom she had beheaded soon burned with bright blue flames. The other men who had been caught by her all held painful expressions on their faces as they turned away to not look at the fate of what had befallen onto one of them. She then turns to them with the biggest bombastic side-eye in history, telling the men to walk. The group of men did not reply at all, but simply responded with action as they walked together in unison while she watches over them with her blade drawn. A guard appears and wonders if she intended on handing over these group of bandits to him. One of the bandits with a bruised face and swollen eyes started to cry and beg. He informs the guard that they were the Snow Bear bandits. All of the men started to kneel as their leader begged the guard to put them all in jail. The blue-hair priest was beside them and informed the guard that that was what they wanted. But the guard was hesitant to accept as he informs the priest that the Lord of Kelton, who had put up the rewards, had died to evil spirit worshippers, and that it would take about a day for her to receive the rewards. Hearing this new information piques her interest as she questions him about what had happened to those worshippers. The guard was happy to announce to her that, including the monsters the worshippers created, Priest Marnak killed them all. He also revealed to her that Marnak had been asleep for 10 days because of the fierce battle and that he had just woken up this morning. Hearing the name Marnak made her realize that he was referring to Gwei's demon slayer. She soon asks the guard about the priest Marnak that he had spoken of, the supposed arch-nemesis of the evil spirit worshippers. She wanted to know if he was currently staying in Kelton. The scene then changes to a tavern where many drunken customers were gathered about. One of the drunk patrons was then asks if by chance he happened to know where Priest Marnak may be right now. Hearing the name Marnak causes the drunk man to slam his mug of beer onto the table. Then all of a sudden, all of the customers in the tavern started to cheer loudly. They all soon started to chant Marnak, Marnet, as they lifted their mugs filled with beer into the air. But the blue-haired priest remained silent with a sullen look as the citizens of the city continued to praise Marnak for being the arch-nemesis of the evil spirits. The cheers of the people continued to be heard throughout the night just as 2 horses were seen galloping away from the city at a fast speed. It turns out to be Marnak and Carmen who were riding those horses. A flashback is seen from when our favorite bald-headed demon informs Marnak that there was something he had to tell him. He reveals to Marnak that there was a priest with interesting blue hair from the Sacred Flame sect and that she was looking for him. Marnak was alarmed to hear this news from our demon boy. He quickly asks him if he thought that it seemed like she knew that he was still alive, but he replies back that he didn't think that she was sure, but with a grim look on his face, he warns Marnak that when it comes to finding him, she had no intentions of giving up. Marnak could only grit his teeth hard as he recalled his meeting with our demon boy. Mother soon shouts out murder at him, which when he tells her that he was already aware. He knew that it would be insane for him to stay in Kelton, because he should have known that among all the humans he knew, she was the strongest one, the woman who was rated 4.5 fingers. As they rode throughout the night, Marnak thanks Carmen for agreeing to leave on such short notice. Carmen replies back to him that there was no need to worry as he would rather leave whenever they had the chance to rather than garner attention from the city. Hearing that kind of response brings a smile to Marnak's face as he thought about how he really liked Carmen, while Mother on the other hand was still annoyed with him. 2 weeks had passed as our boys continued their journey through the snowy lands on foot this time. Carmen soon calls out to Marnak to inform him that he may be wrong about something but believes that he had spotted the crest of the Irimal family. It turns out that there was a group with a carriage that was moving towards where our boys were. Marnak then questions Carmen about when he said Irimal. Was he talking about that Irimal who was the High Lord of the South? Carmen replies back that that was it. He noted that the white camellia flower seal was the crest of the Irimal family. Marnak soon wonders if they should greet them since they were approaching the boys, but Carmen was reluctant to as he noticed that they didn't hand the Lord's flag, which made him speculate that it was most likely that either his relative or child was in the carriage, so it might be better for them to quietly bypass the group. Soon enough, the Irimal family crossed paths with our boys. Marnak and Carmen decided to just walk on by without greeting the family, but as he walked past the carriage, Marnak could sense that something just wasn't right. Carmen then looks at him with a curious look. This was when Marnak reveals to him that inside the carriage was someone who was being tied up. The moment he said those words, the guards that were around the carriage immediately drew their swords at our boys. One of the guards wore a cheerful smile on his face as he tells Marnak and Carmen that they would have let them go if they played dumb, but then they decided on the spot that they should kill the both of them. The men then orders the rest of the group to kill Marnak and Carmen as they all lunge towards them in various directions. A massive explosion soon occurs from where both groups stood. Heads began to fly off while arrows landed on their targets. The guards were horrified to see the fate that had befallen onto their comrades. Even the man who gave out the order to attack was shocked to see what happened. Marnak couldn't believe that they dared to start swinging their swords like that. Even though he knew that they were kidnappers, he informs Carmen that there were only 8 of them left as both drew their sword and bow with their backs against one another. The bald man started to curse out loud, asking his men about what they were doing and warned them that they needed to finish things off quickly. He continues to question his men on whether they were afraid of Marnak and Carmen, urging them to hurry it up as they were running out of time. Hearing those remarks from their leader causes the remaining men to attack Marnak and Carmen all at once. The bald man shouted, "Die!" As he pointed a finger towards them. Some time had passed and finally an arrow landed right into the skull of the bald man. Carmen had finally landed the final shot that ended the battle, but the sound of someone vomiting in the background drew his attention. He turns to see that Marnak was comforting someone who was busy throwing up a rainbow dinner. He then asks him if he was able to get her name. Marnak continues to slap the person's back as they continued to vomit, telling Carmen that based on their current situation, it wasn't the right time to ask questions. Carmen could see this as Marnak wonders if they had drugged her as she was still unable to move around properly. Bodies of the dead guards covered the ground as Carmen asks if her eyes were gold. Marnak replies with a yes and noted that she was probably a lady of the Iramal family. The young lady then asks Marnak to stop patting her back as the more he does it, the more she felt like throwing up. Some time had passed and she had finally put an end to her vomiting. Seeing her face even made Carmen blush as he was awed by something. The young lady thanks our boys for saving her and introduces herself as the eldest daughter of Kalto Iramal, the smiling young master. She tells them that her name is Dakia Iramal. Hearing her name made Carmen think about how if she really was Dakia, the daughter of the smiling young master, then it meant that she was a mage. Marnak was filled with a dreadful feeling after knowing that Dakia was both a mage and a noble. He could tell from her appearance that she was going to be extremely rude, but Carmen noted that they could worry about that later. He then whispers to Marnak that she really has a big heart. Marnak replies back that he agrees. I believe all men agree with Carmen's statement. Who doesn't love a girl with a big heart? But hearing their words made one woman angry as mother shouted murder. With an annoyed expression, Dakia then started to cough to attract our boys' attention. She tells them that she wanted to know the names of the one that had saved her and noted that she could see that one of them was a priest. Marnak introduces himself as a priest who was worshipping the goddess of preservation. Dakia replied back to him that Marnak was not a bad name. She then extends her hand out to him and wonders if she could seek some assistance as she was currently having some trouble walking. She informs them that the anesthetic gas that she was forced to inhale was still in her system. Carmen then offers his hand to help her and introduces himself as the son of Sir Enthus Valtus. Hearing the name Valtus made her wonder if it was a good idea for Carmen to help her. She tells him that if there were some unknown onlookers who were to see the black prairie dog of the Valtus family traveling with her, and if by chance the rumor were to spread to the capital, then she was sure that he had someone that he was worried about in the capital, so the least that she could do was to be considerate. She then turns to Marink to ask him if she was right. Both our boys were stunned to hear this kind of response from her as they both knew that she was both a noble and a mage. They continued to stare at her with a stunned look on their faces as they couldn't believe that she was this considerate of others. Carmen then wonders if they could ask her about what exactly happened that led her to this situation. Dakia decides to tell them that although she didn't have concrete evidence in regards to the culprit but she had a feeling, but she changes her mind as she knew that it was obvious, that this kidnapping was arranged by her brother who had always despised her, an act planned by Derso Iramal.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.